Hello, and welcome to my weekly book review. And today, I want to talk to you about Godkiller, the debut novel by Hannah Kaner. Wow, what a debut it is. This is probably one of my favorite reads of the year. The novel itself came out in January of this year, 2023. I purchased my copy through the Broken Binding on a whim based on the description, and I am thrilled that I purchased this. Wow, it's a crazy read, but a very fun read. It's a fantasy read. So if you couldn't tell from the wonderful, beautiful full-color end papers, we have our little fantasy realm here. Various nations, although this entire novel, with the exception of the prologue, takes place in the land of Midran, where gods used to be as commonplace as animals you'd find, in nature. The gods are just spirits, and you give the spirit an offering, and it becomes powerful and more powerful, and you build its shrines, and it becomes a god, and it becomes increasingly powerful. That is until there was a sort of war that erupts within Midran. The king Aaron, I'm not really sure how you pronounce it, outlawed gods. And suddenly you have fighting in the streets. And the only place within Midran that now has gods is the city of Blenraden, which is kind of overrun with wild gods. This novel follows 4 point-of-view characters. The first being the titular Godkiller herself, Kissen. When she was a younger girl, her family was sacrificed. She was attempted to be sacrificed to the god of fire, one of the gods of fire up in her home country of Talikia. More on that spelling in a bit. Her family does not survive, but she does, albeit with the loss of her leg, and she devotes the rest of her life to hunting down, almost like a mercenary, hunting down, destroying these shrines, and killing these gods. The next 2 point-of-view characters are the god of white lies, Skediseth, who is pictured here on the back cover, kind of a cross between a hare with a bird and little deer antlers. He is the god of white lies, and he has found himself attached, not physically, but more of like spiritually attached to Inara, the daughter of a royal, of a lady, I guess, a duchess of, whatever house she's in. She's a young teenage girl who can't wander more than a few paces away from Skedi. When they wander too far away from each other, there is in a tug, like they're out of breath, their heart hurts, and so they are bound together. And it's up to Kissen, the main character, the Godkiller, who to try to help Inara free herself or separate herself from Skedi. That way they can both live full, happy lives. And then finally, there's Elagast, who is a former knight on a quest from his king that's going to take him to the wild city of Blenraden. And along the way, they're going to encounter other gods. They're going to encounter some dangers. And it's one hell of a story. Wow, yeah. The world building is top-notch. The character development was superb. I don't want to say the entire thing is action-packed. It's very much like what you would expect, have a roller coaster. It has its lulls without action, and it has its highs where the action is edge of your seat. During those lulls, it's not boring. Hannah Kaner does an excellent job building up the world or developing the characters. There is not any wasted space within this novel. I mean, it's a tight 300 pages, and that's 300 pages of epic fantasy. I mean, she could have gone beyond that with the world building. She could have packed 400, 450, even onward pages with just more world building. And for that, I am very much excited to see where she goes next. I mean, this story is clearly not done. This is definitely going to be the first in a series, and I am all for it. If you're a fan of high fantasy, you should check out Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. It's well written. It's well paced. It's got intriguing lead characters. It's very unique to have a lead character being Kissen, who has she's missing a limb. She's missing a leg. She has a prosthetic leg, which is very unique, very kind of inclusive in that way. You don't really get too many lead characters, especially in fantasy like this, where a character has a disability. But that's not to say she's disabled, because she makes up for it with just pure badassery and her prosthetic. Um, each character, each chapter, each point of view has its own little icon. Kissen's here is the scar that she has almost burned into her face. Like, it's wild. And then you have Elegast, which has the royal sigil of King Aaron. Skediseth, which has the house, Inara's house with the 3 trees, and I believe Inara has the same as Skedi, her own family sigil. But yeah, wow. I mean, if I had to do any complaints, and these are one's very much a nitpick, because I like to nitpick. They did spell the nation of Talicia or Talikia long. Incorrectly. So I mean, like, very much on the first page, on the map, very much on the first page, they literally say, oh yeah, the lands of Talicia, the lands of Talikia. And I was like, hey, this is the first page. I was just looking at the map. You missed out an I. But I mean, it's a shame, but it's very much a nitpick. And there is a relationship later in the novel. I mean, it leads to a sex scene, which, you're going to have a sex scene in fantasy novels. It's going to happen. I felt it was a little forced, the relationship, not the sex. Yeah, I mean, I felt like the characters, I guess I can, see the relationship budding between the characters who have the relationship, but I didn't really think it needed, that almost shoehorned sex scene. I mean, I understand why it's there, and I'm sure other readers may disagree with me. I don't know. I didn't think the novel needed it. It didn't detract from the novel in any way, but it wasn't necessary. But anyways, wow. This was a stellar debut novel from Hannah Kaner. The Scottish author definitely is going to be going places. This, like I said, is from Harper Voyager, the trade edition, which from the Broken Bindings over in the UK. They are sold out, but you can pick up a copy wherever books are sold. I mean, you might just get a regular trade edition, but I mean, if you go on the secondary market, I'm sure you could find a signed copy or a copy that's from, Illumicrate or Broken Bindings, such as this. I don't know if Fairy Loot did one. I mean, I feel like they should, based on, the concept of it, but I know they really focus on more YA or young adult novels, of which this is not. I mean, if you have a young adult reader who is into fantasy, they might like Godkiller, but I mean, obviously there is a sex scene. It's not overly graphic, but it is there. There is, language. There's a little bit of blood. I mean, nothing that, would deter young readers, but I would say more of a PG-13, although, with the PG-13 ratings, you only get one F-bomb. There are a couple F-bombs in here, but, read as you will. But seriously, check out Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. It was one hell of a read. This was a blind buy for me, and I am so incredibly thrilled that I had purchased this. Check out my page. I'm doing a book review a week, as well as plenty of unboxings in between there. So please consider giving me a like and subscribe, and we'll see you around next time.